Hi everyone, my name is Ashley Avis. I'm the writer and director of Disney's Black Beauty, as well as the founder and president of the Wild Beauty Foundation. I wanted to thank every single child and teen who wrote a short story for our 2021 inaugural creative writing competition. Your stories from around the world were full of such hope, heartbreak, family, and great joy. And we're so appreciative that you took your time to use your creativity to raise awareness for our wild world. I wanted to give a special shout out to the honorable mentions this year, which include The Stardew Stallion by Hannah H., The Girl Who Walked on Air by Ashlyn F., The River by Annalisa C., and Embrace Freedom by Sheehan W. The final finalist in this year's competition in the middle school category is by 10-year-old Jaida N., all the way from Monkerai, Australia. Her story is called Guardians of the Blue Mountains. So let's take a read. Twigs snapped and dry leaves rustled as the wild ponies of the Blue Mountains took a journey to the small town below. Wild ponies hardly ever visited. It was a rare sight if you ever saw one traveling close to the town. In fact, it might even be a once-in-a-lifetime experience for some. I'm sure you will agree with me that if a certain young girl was looking out her bedroom window and just happened to see the wild ponies acting in a very strange way, it would be very unlikely. But unlikely or not, it happened. Yes, it happened. Sophia Johnson is a 10-year-old girl living in the small town at the foot of the Blue Mountains in Australia, and it is here in this quiet town that this story takes place. Sophie's lifelong dream was to see the wild ponies of the Blue Mountains. Little did she know, she was about to receive much more than that. Sophie's eyes flickered open. Surely it had been a dream where the wild ponies were below her bedroom window. All the same, she got out of her rickety old bed and tiptoed toward her window. The wind blew dust and leaves into her bedroom as she heaved the massive ancient window open. Sophie peered outside, and the sight she saw took her breath away. Directly below in the laneway were 4 wild ponies. What intrigued Sophie the most was the fact that the ponies looked exactly like they were discussing something extremely important. Sophie was now leaning out of her window so far that only her waist and legs were inside the room. Suddenly, a huge gust of wind came out of nowhere and almost blew her off the windowsill. Sophie let out an ear-splitting shriek, and the wild ponies all looked up to see her dangling from the window. Up above them, Sophie's grip on the windowsill was beginning to loosen, and the ancient timber started to crumble. Another strong gust of wind came along and loosened her grip even more. Suddenly, a voice entered her head saying, "Let go, we'll catch you." As you can imagine, this freaked Sophie out, and when the window gave a big creaking groan and cracked even more, she reluctantly let go. As soon as this happened, the wild ponies lined up, and Sophie fell right on top of them. But with all that had happened that night, and as she hit her head falling from the top of the 2-story building, she blacked out. Sophie woke to birds chirping and the sound of hoofbeats. Her eyes shuddered open, and she heard a voice she could have sworn she'd heard before saying, "Look, she's finally waking up." Sophie opened her eyes fully, and to her surprise, 4 hairy faces peering at her. It took Sophie a minute to realize they were the wild ponies. She sat up, bewildered. A voice entered her head once more this time. However, it was a younger, higher-pitched voice saying, "Oh, I wonder if she really is one of us." Sophie's mind was spinning. One of us? What did that mean? Did it have something to do with the fact that she could hear voices in her head, which must be the wild ponies? Sophie's mind was still clearing when she heard another voice enter her head. A deep, older voice was saying, "She must be. Otherwise, we wouldn't have heard her cries for help in our heads." Meanwhile, still on the ground, Sophie was beginning to realize where she actually was. "I can understand you, you know. But why am I here? Did you bring me?" she asked. This time, it was the younger, higher-pitched voice that spoke. "See, I told you she was one of us. Let me introduce myself. I'm Moonlight, the youngest in the herd, and this is Silver, my mother. The quiet one over there is Shadow. She's probably the smartest of us. And this big old meanie pants standing next to me is Dusk, the stallion of this herd." Ahem, it was Dusk. "Actually, I'm not a big meanie pants, and in answer to your question, we brought you here because the Blue Mountains are in terrible danger, and we, the guardians of the Blue Mountains, need your help As dusk started to explain, Sophie settled down to listen. Well, this all happened about a month ago, Dusk began. A man named Augustus Craig decided to bring big machines to start mining into the Blue Mountains in search for expensive minerals. Of course, this would be terrible for all of the native animals that live in the mountains, not to mention all the water pollution that it would cause. We, the Guardians, have tried everything we can to think of to stop this destruction, but nothing has worked, which is why we need your help. Sophie's heart sank. This was more difficult than she thought. Suddenly an idea came to her that she excitedly told the wild ponies. The night air was chilly against Sophie's skin as she and the wild ponies crept through the darkness toward the mining site. The strange group finally reached a large open space where most of the trees were gone, replaced by piles of dirt. Following Sophie's plan, the ponies trotted off to tell the trees to whisper threats, order mist to look like spirits, and finally convince the wind to send icy fingers toward the enemy. Early that morning, when the sun wasn't yet up, a man named Augustus Craig set foot in the mining site. The trees, remembering what the Guardians had told them, whispered threats, but Augustus only flinched, thinking it was his imagination. Upon seeing this, the mists and wind howled and made shapes like spirits. This scared the pants off Augustus, and he fled into the darkness, never to be seen again. The end. Thank you, Jaida, for using your voice to raise awareness for wild horses. And again, thank you to everyone who participated in this special competition this year. My name is Ashley Avis, and I stand with wild horses.